Welcome back with a smiling face. Important note before starting, if you are a fan of audio stories, then our Patreon account is the best platform for you. Join us on Patreon for the best audiobooks ever. Redeeming Himself. Episode 3. Chapter 16 to 22. Liam, this was absolutely the best night of my life, Liam. I wouldn't change anything about it. Thank you so much, she said. Her words said one thing, but her voice said another. Momentarily, joy flooded my body, knowing that she enjoyed her time with me. But that was quickly replaced with doubt. Was she worried that this would all go away once we had answers? I guess I should probably go, she started, but I wasn't going to let her finish. I grabbed her chin and brought her face to mine, finally bringing my lips to hers. I had been thinking about this all night but couldn't find the right moment. I held still for a moment, just enjoying the feel of her sweet, pouty lips on mine. I moved my hand to her waist, sliding it to the small of her back so I could pull her closer. I moved my hand from her chin, around to the back of her head, entangling my fingers in her silky locks. I deepened the kiss, wanting to show her that I was falling in love with her. Our lips moved against each other sensually, and she never pulled away. The sweetest little moan escaped her lips as we kissed, and the sound went straight to my groin. I knew I would have to stop kissing her, or I wouldn't be able to control myself. We finally broke apart. I rested my forehead against hers, trying to catch my breath. I could see her lips already looking redder and swollen, which excited me even more. I didn't want to leave her but knew that I couldn't stay, that would be far too fast for us. Slow down. Keep this at her pace. Wow, she whispered, breaking me from my errant thoughts. I smiled at her. Tonight was incredible. Thank you for allowing me to spend it with you, Azalea. I hope I made your first date a good one, I told her as I pulled my head away from hers. For good measure, I leaned in and kissed the top of her hair. I told her, good night, before turning to leave. I walked back across the yard of the inn, and I could feel her eyes on me the whole way. A smug smirk graced my lips as I thought about the events of the evening. I think I was getting her to fall for me. And I wasn't going to stop until we were mated. As I got back to my car, my heart began to ache a little. Leaving her was getting harder and harder, and my wolf was getting more restless. The more time we spent together without mating, the harder it would be to control the urge. You shouldn't be leaving, mate, Gavin butted in inside my head. We can't just stay. She didn't even ask us to. I argued back, and I climbed into my car. But mate isn't safe without us. I want to be with her just as much as you, but we both know nothing is going to happen here in human territory. There hasn't been any wolf smell around here except the old man all day. But she has no wolf to protect her. It's our job to protect her. Could you just stop already? I want to be with her too. We have to be patient. I blocked him from my thoughts as I pulled my keys out of my pocket. Before I could start my SUV, my phone rang. I pulled it out of my pocket. After checking the number, I didn't recognize it but decided to answer anyway. Hello? I said into the phone. Hi, Liam, a small, sweet voice said. Azalea? Is that you? Yeah. I was just. What is it? I asked gently. Well, I was sort of wondering. Have you left yet? My heart began to race. No, I was just about to pull out of the lot. Why? Did something happen? Well, kind of. I don't know. It's silly. No, tell me, Kitten. What's wrong? When I got back, it sort of seemed like someone had been in here, gone through my stuff. And I thought. What else, Azalea? Tell me, I said, unbuckling my seatbelt and opening my door. I thought I saw someone in the window. But it could have just been a shadow, it's silly. Never mind. No, stay right there. I am coming, I took off back to her apartment. I sped back, smelling for signs of anyone else. I used my wolf hearing to listen into the surrounding area. I could sense some familiar scents from around the inn, but nothing out of the ordinary. I went to her door and knocked quietly. Azalea, it's Liam. Open up for me. I heard shuffling behind the door, and then it opened slowly. Azalea stood there barefoot, still in her dress, but her hair was now pulled up in a messy little bun. She looked breathtaking other than the scared expression on her face. My heart clenched, and I knew Gavin was giving me an "I told you so" right now. I stepped inside, she stepped back, letting me in. I closed the door behind before opening my arms. She immediately stepped into them, burying her face in my chest. I held her close as she began to sob. I let her cry until her sobs turned into small hiccups and sniffles. Without letting her go, I asked, "Do you want me to stay?" She nodded her head. Even though I knew she was scared, I couldn't help but smile in delight. I loosened my grip around her so I could pick her up. I carried her into her small bathroom and set her on the counter. I held her face in my hands, brushing the hair out of her eyes. "Why don't I draw you a nice hot shower? You can wash up and warm up. I'll wait outside the door." She nodded her head shyly at me. I turned around to her shower and began to figure out how to turn it on. Once I got it on and set it to hot, I turned to her. I grabbed her by the hips and helped her hop down from the counter. "Do you need anything?" I asked, looking around. I wasn't sure if she kept her towels in here or not. She just shook her head and gave me a shy smile. "Okay, I'll be right out there. Call if you need something." She nodded her head, and I turned to leave. Once outside the bathroom, I went over to her tiny kitchen. I can't imagine she cooks here much, she probably mostly eats at the inn. I rummaged through her cabinets until I found what I was looking for: hot cocoa. Coffee wouldn't do this late, but cocoa makes everyone feel a little better. I set to work making some cocoa for us. When I was pouring it into 2 large mugs, the only 2 in her tiny kitchen, I heard the shower turn off. I heard the doorknob turn. I grabbed the mugs, turning my attention to the bathroom door. As the door opened, my jaw dropped. Azalea stood there with an exceedingly small towel wrapped around her body. I never thought to grab her some clean clothes for when she was finished. She shyly looked up at me. "I need to grab some clothes," she said, not making eye contact with me. I closed my mouth and nodded my head. She made her way over to her little dresser and grabbed a few things. She went to her closet, turned on the light, and closed the door behind her. I let out the breath I was holding in. My pants were now very tight. I had not thought about her needing a change of clothes. I turned around to busy myself with cleaning up the kitchen, setting down the drinks. After a few moments, I heard the closet door open again. I grabbed the mugs, but before I could turn around, something in the kitchen window caught my eye. There was a shadow, a person-shaped shadow behind the curtain. I knew I paused for just a little too long because the shadow moved before I could open the curtain. I peeked through the small crack in the curtain but saw nothing. Maybe Azalea had seen something outside her window earlier. "Is something wrong?" I heard a small voice say behind me. Nothing at all, I said, turning around. I did not want her to know I saw someone outside her house. But all those thoughts were again swept right out of my brain as I looked at her. Her soft ginger locks were twisted back into a braid that hung down in front of her shoulders. Her cheeks were a bit rosy, and her eyes were no longer puffy from crying. She wore a white tank top and some light green plaid pajama bottoms. The pants hugged her hips, and I was sure that when she turned around, her A*S would look phenomenal. In her hand, she held a grey sweatshirt, my sweatshirt, which made my heart swell even more. Here, I made you this, I said, handing her one of the cups. She set the sweatshirt on the bed and walked towards me, taking the cup from my hands. She sipped it, closing her eyes with a smile. "This is great, thank you," she said quietly. I think she was still embarrassed about asking me to stay or being scared. "Of course. It should help warm you up." "Thank you, Liam. I really appreciate you coming back," she said. "I told you, Azalea, I would do anything you asked me to." She looked down at her cup, avoiding eye contact with me. In the quietest voice, she finally spoke, "Even stay the night." Gavin howled in my head. I set my cup down and moved back over to her. Wrapping my arms around her waist, she looked up with me with giant doe eyes. I could never tell this woman no, even if she wanted me to reject her. I would spend the rest of my life giving her anything she wanted. "Of course, I'll stay with you. It would be my pleasure." I grabbed the cup from her hand and set it on the counter next to us. She laid her head on my chest, and I wrapped her petite frame in my arms, holding her close. She smelled heavenly, and it was not helping my erection. We stood there for a moment while I tried to calm my body down. Her arms began to move up and make their way around my neck slowly. She lifted her head and looked into my eyes. I bent down slightly to make it easier for her. "Kiss her now," Gavin growled in my head. For once, I think he had the right idea. Slowly, I lowered my lips to hers. She welcomed me, raising up on her toes slightly to meet my lips. I growled at her enthusiasm as those pleasurable mate sparks surged through my mouth. Our lips clashed in a sweet, passionate embrace. I licked her bottom lip, begging for entry to her delectable mouth. She opened her lips, and that was all the invitation I needed. I bent down, grabbing her thighs and picking her up as I plunged my tongue in her mouth. She wrapped her legs around my waist and adjusted her arms to hug my neck tighter. I held her by her thighs as we kissed right there in the middle of her little apartment. It wasn't long before I could smell her arousal, making me smile into our kiss. I walked over to the bed, still holding her and not breaking our kiss. I sat down, adjusting her into my lap. We finally broke apart, catching our breaths. A shy smile graced her lips. "Should we lay down?" I asked her. She nodded her head. Without letting go of her, I shifted us onto the bed. Grabbing a blanket from the end of the bed for her, I maneuvered towards the pillows, laying myself back. As I did, she shifted herself to lay right on top of me. I pulled the blanket over her and hugged her to my chest. "Are you comfortable?" I asked. "MMMHMM," she hummed, her eyes fluttering closed. "Are you warm?" "MMMM," she hummed again, nodding her head slightly. I smiled. Even if I couldn't mate with her yet, this has been the best day of my life and will be the best sleep I have had in years. Chapter 17. Azalea. I woke up feeling incredibly warm and cozy. I realized once again, I had large arms wrapped around me as well as a leg tangled in between mine. I smiled for a moment, thinking about last night. I was so scared when I saw the shadow move past my window. I have never had anyone mess with me back here. I felt silly calling him, but Liam came anyway. He did not make me feel silly or stupid. He just took care of me like no one ever has. I have always been a big girl, always taking care of myself. About a year after my parents died, I told myself I had to stop crying and grow up. I can't say it never happened living in the pack house, there were definitely times where the tears broke through my wall. But I learned to lock everything away and face my reality. I learned to survive. When Liam left me at the inn, I thought I was going to die from the pain. But I knew I couldn't survive like that. So, I picked myself up and survived. I never hoped for anyone to come along and sweep me off my feet, that only happens in books. Being away from the pack and being independent gave me a small amount of hope that I could just live content and simple. Until Liam showed up, that was all I wanted. A simple, quiet life. Books to read, the inn to take care of, and just a couple of friends. Liam was changing that. I knew I shouldn't let it happen, but I was starting to want more. I know that this little fairy tale can't last forever. No matter how much I feel for him or he feels for me, we can't change the fact that I am a broken wolf. I can't be his Luna and could never ask him to give up being the alpha for me. He worked his whole life to take over the pack, and I am sure he is a great leader. I knew I was just going to get in the way of this for him. Great leaders cannot have weak mates at their side. With these solemn thoughts in my heart, I slowly untangled myself from Liam. He was so asleep that he didn't even move as I climbed over him and got out of the bed. I looked over to my clock that read 5 a.m. I guess there was no time like the present to do what I love most, bake. I went to my closet to get some clothes for the day. I grabbed a pair of jeans, a purple flowery top, and a sweater. Tossing my pajamas onto the very full laundry bin, I changed quickly and quietly. I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth and fix up my hair. I pulled my braid out and combed it into soft waves. I twisted the front pieces back, gathering all my waves into a low bun. I went back out into the apartment, where Liam was still soundly asleep. I grabbed a notepad from the desk and scribbled a quick note to tell him that I would be up at the inn kitchen if he would like some breakfast. Grabbing my laundry basket, I made my way up to the inn. Being so early, Amy wasn't here yet. She was terrible in the mornings, and sometimes our breakfast service fell behind. I placed my laundry in the corner to get to after breakfast while I was doing other laundry. I needed to distract myself from Liam and this whole mate situation, so I got to work. Before I knew it, it was almost 7 o'clock, and Amy was rushing in with a cranky Abigail on her hip, looking like a hot mess. I looked up at them with a smile. Thoughts about not being able to stay with Liam completely pushed to the back of my mind for now. "Good morning," I chirped. "Yeah, she shot back. "Want me to take the munchkin?" I asked. "Oh Lord, please. This child is going to put me in an early grave," she complained, walking towards me with ABI. I wiped my hands on my apron and reached for her. ABI immediately leaned towards making grabby hands, telling me she wanted me to hold her. "Good morning, ABI girl. Are we driving Mama a little crazy today?" I cooed at her. "You could say that. The child has decided her bed is no longer suitable to sleep in and that she will be choosing her own clothing. Look at what she is wearing," Amy complained. I looked down at ABI just now, noticing the ridiculous outfit she had on. I giggled a bit. "Oh, it's okay, Amy. She's just learning to be independent. Right, ABI girl? Let's get your chair and get some breakfast, Hey, I said. There are croissants and danishes in the warmer, and the coffee is ready. Fruit is cut up in the fridge as well. Might just wanna whip up a quick egg scramble, and I can make some orange juice, I told Amy as I went to get ABI's high chair. We started keeping one here when ABI began coming to work with her mom often. I also had a basket of toys, books, crayons, and other things to help keep her occupied so we could still work. You are an angel from the heavens, she said, relieved. She got to work pulling out pans and ingredients to cook some eggs. I went to the cabinet, pulled out the baby cereal, and grabbed the small bowl of fruit I already had ready for ABI this morning. I got her all situated with her small utensils and went to start making some fresh orange juice. So, let's hear it. Spill. Start to finish, Amy said expectantly. Spill what? I asked, trying to play dumb. I knew she wanted to hear about the date. Stop being so thick. Your date with tall, hot, and gorgeous. I need to know everything, and I need to know now, she said. I told you, my name is Liam, came a deep voice from the doorway. Liam stood there looking hot in a tousled, I just woke up sort of way. Amy immediately looked at me with her mouth open. He stayed the night, she hissed at me. I blushed and turned to Liam. Good morning. Coffee? I asked. Please, he replied with a giant smile. I got him a mug and poured out some coffee. I brought it to him as he thanked me and took a sip. So, breakfast will be done in just a few minutes if you're hungry, I said shyly. I wasn't sure I wanted him to stick around, but I knew I didn't want him to leave yet. I am sorry, Azalea, but I have to take off. There are some things that need my attention at, work today, he said, shooting a glance at Amy. Disappointment coursed through me, we hadn't even spoken about last night. I didn't want him to know, though. That's all right. I could wrap you something up for the road if you'd like, I said with a small smile. Sure, that would be lovely, he said with a tight smile. I went to the warmer and grabbed him a few pastries. I grabbed a napkin from the cupboard and wrapped them up. I also fetched him a to-go cup from the coffee cart to carry his coffee. How about I walk you to the front? I said, handing him the food. Please, lead the way. Amy, nice to see you, he said as we took our leave. Amy nodded at him and continued to cook. When we got to the front, we stepped out onto the porch. We both paused, not looking at each other. He was the first to break the silence. I really enjoyed our time together, Azalea. I wish I could stay a little longer, but there is some business at the pack I need to take care of. It's all right. I enjoyed yesterday as well. Thank you for staying with me. I have never been scared back there before. Promise you will call me if you ever see anything out of the ordinary again, he asked seriously. Sure, I said. I was smiling, but I knew my eyes were probably sad. I should go. Thank you for the breakfast and coffee, he said. He bent down and kissed my forehead, leaving a pleasurable warmth where his lips were. I watched him walk to his SUV, climb in, and pull out of the driveway. I sighed. Time to go to work. Liam. When I woke in the morning, I almost instinctively reached for Azalea, but she wasn't there. Sadness washed over me. Where did she go? I got up and looked around her small apartment for her. Although the place smelled strongly of her, I couldn't hear any other heartbeats in the cottage. Maybe she went up to the inn? I looked at the clock, realizing it was about 7 a.m. She must be an early riser, Gavin said in my head. Yeah, I thought. I moved through the apartment to retrieve my shoes and noticed a note on the kitchen counter. Woke up early. Didn't want to wake you. Breakfast will be ready up at the inn by 7. Come join me. So, I was right. Hopefully, she was just being polite, and nothing was wrong with last night. That was one of the best nights of sleep I have had in a while. I was out like a light. Sleeping with her in my arms was the most blissful thing, and it definitely calmed Gavin down. I went to the bathroom and tried to fix up my appearance. Before I could finish, my phone rang. I pulled it out of my pocket to see Damian's name on the caller ID. Yeah, I answered. Are you coming back today? Damian demanded. I growled at his tone. Sorry, man, it's just there was another attack on the border of Langston's in our territory. One from each pack. This hunter thing is going to get out of hand fast. We need you back here. Focused. I sighed. I had been distracted, and it wasn't fair to my pack. I should probably at least come clean to Damian soon about the situation with Azalea. Yet, give me an hour or so, and I'll be back. Call Langston to meet me in my office. You and his beta should also be there. Can do, he said. Liam. He paused. I waited for him to continue. Is it her? The traitor girl, he asked quietly. We'll talk later, I said and hung up the phone. I know I wasn't inspiring much confidence at the moment, but this was not a conversation I wanted to have at this moment or even over the phone. I also wanted to see if my uncle had more answers for me. Once I was satisfied with my messy hair, I made my way to the inn. As I approached the door, I could hear her angelic voice say, "She's just learning to be independent." Right, ABI girl? Let's get your chair and get some breakfast, hey. She must be talking to the baby, she was so good with her. She would be an amazing mom. Then let's make some pups. Hurry up and mark her already. Gavin groaned in my head. Stuff it. She isn't ready for that, I shot back. So, let's hear it. Spill. Start to finish, I heard Amy push at her. Spill what? Azalea replied airily. I knew where this was going. I figured I should probably save her from the questioning. I quietly opened the door. Azalea was standing next to the prep table with some oranges. I don't know how she can blow my mind in just jeans and a shirt, but she looked just as delectable as last night. The sight and smell of her immediately had my member standing at attention. Stop being so thick. Your date with tall, hot and gorgeous. I need to know everything, and I need to know now. Amy snapped at her. A low growl escaped my lips, far too low for either of the girls to hear. I told you, my name is Liam, I said, announcing my presence. Azalea jumped a little as she turned around with a large grin on her face. That grin was all for me, and I couldn't get enough. Amy turned open mouth to Azalea and hissed, "He stayed the night," as some silent conversation passed between their eyes. A sweet blush crept up Azalea's cheeks as she turned back to me. "Good morning." "Coffee?" she chirped. "Please," I replied with a giant smile. She handed me a fresh mug, and I gladly took a sip. "So, breakfast will be done in just a few minutes if you're hungry," she said, looking towards Amy. "I am sorry, Azalea, but I have to take off. There are some things that need my attention at work today," I told her, catching myself from mentioning the pack. I could see her sweet green orbs flood with disappointment. She could not fathom how much I wanted to stay right here with her. She smiled brightly at me, trying to hide her feelings, and said, "That's all right. I could wrap you something up for the road if you'd like. Sure, that would be lovely, I told her. I was starving. She moved about the kitchen wrapping up some fresh-looking pastries and grabbing a to-go cup for my coffee. Thank goddess for this woman. I am going to need all the coffee I can get to get through today without her. How about I walk you to the front, she said as she handed me the food. Please, lead the way, I said ecstatically. Amy, nice to see you, I said, acknowledging her friend. I did need to get her on my side if I was ever going to win Azalea over as my mate. Azalea led the way to the front. When we stepped out on the front porch, she paused. I really enjoyed our time together, Azalea. I wish I could stay a little longer, but there is some business at the pack I need to take care of. It's all right. I enjoyed yesterday as well. Thank you for staying with me. I have never been scared back there before. Promise you will call me if you ever see anything out of the ordinary again. I asked with concern in my voice. If someone were actually bothering her, I would take care of them. Sure, she said with a smile that didn't meet her eyes. She made me worry, but I didn't let her know that. I should go. Thank you for the breakfast and coffee, I told her. With that, I leaned in and kissed her forehead one more time, taking a deep breath to memorize her scent. I turned and made my way to my SUV. I got in and immediately started the engine. I knew the longer I lingered, the less I would want to go. I pulled out of the inn parking lot and made my way towards the pack house. After a few minutes of driving, I unwrapped the breakfast Azalea sent. I absent-mindedly grabbed a croissant and dug in. After the first bite, realization washed over me. I have had this before, these tasted like the ones I ate growing up. I couldn't remember exactly the first time I had it, but one day croissants were served with breakfast, and I couldn't ever remember eating anything that had tasted so good. It quickly became my favorite thing for breakfast, and our cooks had to have found out because they started serving them at least once a week. Around the time that I made Azalea leave, we stopped having them. My 17th birthday was the last time I remember having them. I thought we changed Omega cooks or something. She had to have made these. She was up so early today, and she did tell me she loves to bake while we talked at the coffee shop. All those years, I was eating her food, and I didn't know. Oh goddess, I thought as my mind strayed to that morning about a month before my 17th birthday. I was so mean to her that day. I let her fall, I teased her, threw water on her, all when she was the one that would make a special breakfast just for me most mornings. I had gone into the kitchen a little early that day and probably interrupted her making everything. I was the worst alpha in training, I am no better than the rest of the pack with how I treated her. We didn't know she was our mate. But now we do. We can protect her now, Gavin chided in my head. So, the big bad wolf has some sympathy. I shot back. Well, I could tell you that you still are just a piece of st. Or I can help you get our mate. I know. I just hate realizing that I was even worse than I previously thought. She probably thinks I am just a giant monster. Well, we kinda are. Shut up. You know what I mean. Sorry. We need to forget the past and worry about now. We need to make Azalea ours so no one else can have her. First, we have to deal with this hunter situation. Then we can make Azalea come back to the pack with us. Right. Good idea. I could use a good hunt anyway. I rolled my eyes at him. I really didn't understand my wolf sometimes. But I couldn't argue. I needed to make Azalea mine entirely. We needed to mate, or Gavin was going to continue to drive me crazy. Wolves are a pretty horny race, but alphas are a whole other level. One thing at a time. Hunter first. Then Azalea. I continued to think this as I made my way back to the pack house. Chapter 18. So, are you gonna talk about it, or do I gotta actually ask? Damian said. We had just wrapped up with Alpha Langston and his beta. We agreed to a plan of attack on this hunter problem after only 2 hours of debate over the best strategy. I sighed. I guess this was coming eventually. You might as well link Lily that you're gonna be a minute, I said as I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Damian gave me a confused look as I pulled out the bourbon and a couple of glasses. I poured us each a glass, passing him his. Well, this is gonna be interesting if we need this, he said, tipping his glass at me. We both took a small swig and sat in silence for a moment. All right, hit me with it, he finally said. I sighed once again. Do you remember my 17th birthday? I guess a little. I found my mate that night. What? He exclaimed. Just wait. Let me get through this, I paused, taking another drink. It was Azalea. Yes, the traitor girl. I left the party partway through and went to the kitchen. She came in for some ice while I was in there. And I knew. He nodded his head at me. We both knew what discovering your mate felt like. I was immediately filled with dread. I knew my parents would never accept her, and we all thought she was basically human anyway. No legitimate alpha has a human mate. I thought the moon goddess made a monumental mistake. I didn't say anything to her, but my wolf was going nuts. I don't believe she was quite 17, so she couldn't feel the bond yet. That night, I snuck into her room. I paused, swallowing the lump in my throat. We were so wrong to her back then. We treated her terribly. I can't even imagine how she survived this place. I can't say it was our finest hour, he agreed. Anyway, it was so bad. She had bruises and cuts, she was so tiny. I knew I had to protect her before anyone found out. So, I devised a plan. The next morning, I went to my dad and convinced him that she was too much of a distraction to the rest of us. I proffered that we have mercy on her and send her over to the human town. He told me since it was my idea, I would need to take her. I sighed. Ha! Later he told me that I would make a great alpha if I could show mercy to those who didn't deserve it in times that called for it. If he only knew. So, the girl at the inn, that was Azalea. Yeah, that was. I took her there that night. I gave her some money since Gwen took everything she had, and I paid for her room for a couple of weeks. When I took her to the room, I rejected her. I thought that I was keeping her safe. Getting her out of here and away from the pack. I figured the human town would be safer than making her a rogue. That is probably true. I can't imagine such a small girl cast out as a rogue. She wouldn't have survived a month, he said. I nodded my head. I finished my drink and poured another before continuing. Here is the thing, she never accepted the rejection. For the last 3 years, our mate bond has still been there. Damian had a look of horror on his face. He was probably thinking about everything that Gwen had gone through when she didn't accept the rejection. If I had known, I would never have. I just didn't know. I thought she knew how to accept it and would have as soon as she read my note. But she didn't. I could feel tears welling up inside me. It's okay, man. You didn't know. So, what now? Is that where you have been disappearing to? I let out a sigh. Yeah. After we saw her and I told you I needed a run, I went back to her. I saw her in her little apartment at the back of the inn. After that, I came back and you were a raging AE for like 3 days, he interrupted. Yeah, I was. I didn't know what was going on. I shouldn't have recognized her as my mate. Anyway, she finally called and asked me to come back to speak with her. So, I went. She took me into her apartment so we could talk in private. Surprisingly, she let me hold her. She even asked me to lay with her for a while. She said something about not feeling well. I trailed off. I took a sip of my drink and continued. We ended up falling asleep in her bed. When she woke up, there was this guy at her door. The one that took the kid from her arms. Yeah, that guy. I made it known that she was busy, though. After he left, we sort of talked. I told her I was feeling the mate bond still, and I think it sort of overwhelmed her. I agreed to come back the next day with my uncle, hoping we could get some answers. I mean to leave a rejection in limbo for 3 years, with a she-wolf who has never shifted no less. Whew, man, this is getting rough. Well, there is more. So, I brought my uncle the next day. He thinks her wolf is suppressed but still there. He asked me to give him some time to do a little research. He also thinks we can strengthen the mate bond, and it may help her wolf re-emerge. I ended up staying for the rest of the day. I met her friend who doesn't approve of me much, and we sort of had it out in the woods. You took her to the woods to yell at her? Moron, hey! That is not what happened. We went to the woods cause I was pissed off that the stupid guy kept showing up, and he obviously has eyes for my mate. Then we ended up arguing a bit when I told her what my uncle told me. I fumed at him. He put his hands up in surrender. Sorry, man. Go on. That was just a couple of days ago. When I left her, I told her to call me the next night so I could handle pack business. When we finally did talk, I got her to agree to go on a date with me. That's where you disappeared to yesterday. Yeah. And man, it was probably the most amazing night of my life. I know she has doubts, she should after everything in the past. But I can't even tell you what being with her all day was like. She was relaxed and not scared of me. She didn't call me alpha or stutter. She giggled and smiled. She even asked me to stay the night with her. And that's where you were when I called you. Yeah, I had just gotten up and was about to go find her. She had gone up to the inn to make breakfast. Well, that was a whole lot to take in, he said. I cannot figure out what to do next. I don't know if I could ever convince her to come back here. I can't run the pack from out there either. I don't know if I could reject her again, even if she begged me to. But I can't say for sure the pack would ever accept her if they recognized who she was. Well, you could have that going for you. I didn't realize who she was. She is decidedly different now. I shot him a look. You know we can't just pretend she isn't who she is. I know, man. I wish I could tell you what to do here. But honestly, Liam, I don't know. I do know that it is going to be a long night. And we need to be patrolling the border before sundown. So right now, I think we need to go back to our rooms and get some sleep. I nodded my head. You're right. I need to focus on the pack before I figure out what to do about Azalea. He set his glass down as he stood up. He moved towards the door and paused. We'll figure this out, man. You deserve the mate you want, and if you want Azalea, then I'll help you however I need to. Give her a call. Let her know you're okay and promise to call her tomorrow, he said over his shoulder. Thanks, Damian, I said. I really did have the best friend an alpha could get. Go spend some time with Lily. We have a hunter to catch tonight. With that, he left my office. I slumped down in my chair and ran my hands over my face. I sat there contemplating calling Azalea. It had only been a few hours since I left, and I am sure she was busy. I had taken her from most of her workday yesterday. Sighing, I resolved to talk to my uncle first to see if he had any developments on our situation. "Hey Uncle Ron, got a sec?" I linked him. "Anything for my favorite nephew," he replied sarcastically. I was his only nephew. "Have you found anything out about Azalea? Or our bond?" I asked. Impatient as ever, "Boy. Nothing yet. Has there been any change with the two of you?" "Well, maybe. Azalea asked me to stay with her last night." "When you two interact, how does she physically respond?" "What do you mean?" "Mates should be a source of comfort for each other. You have a special ability to calm one another. Soothe your wolf sides as well. Does she relax when you touch her? Maybe lean into you?" "Yeah, I think she does. She mentioned that she slept better when I was with her. She also called me when she was scared. She cried for a bit, but I held her, and she calmed down." "Interesting. And how is Gavin when she is near?" "He is constantly demanding we mate immediately. I am having to fight him sometimes for control. But other than the urge to mate with Azalea, how is his demeanor?" "Actually, he's calmer and more focused when we see her. The longer we stay away, the more restless and reckless he becomes." "Just as I thought," he said. "Care to explain?" "I think that the wolf is slowly going to re-emerge as you two fix your bond. You and Gavin may be the key to bringing forward her wolf. So, she feels the bond. I would hazard to say yes if she is seeking you for comfort. She does not strike me as one who has sought anyone or anything for comfort since her parents' passing. I would say she was taught from a young age that she needed to rely on herself. She never had a parent to comfort her when she was sad or hurt. She didn't have friends to confide to during her adolescence. She has always been independent. I am sure she is warring with herself at the moment. Feeling this pull to you and her body wanting her to take comfort or depend upon you while her mind tells her not to get comfortable. So, what do I do? Again, I have no real answers for you, boy. I can only guess at this time. My opinion? Keep spending time with her. Let the mate bond flourish but at her pace. Be there if she asks you to be. If she pushes you away, do not get angry. Give her space if she needs it. Okay. Let me know if you find out anything." "Thanks, Uncle. I appreciate your candor and discretion." "Of course. Be careful. I may pop up to see Miss Azalea soon." "Sure. Thanks." I sat back in my chair and let out a breath. I really wish we knew more about her wolf and what was keeping it dormant. I would just need to keep trying and keep Gavin patient for now. I looked over at the clock. I wasn't really tired but still had about 8 hours until I would need to head out for the hunter patrol. I couldn't help but wonder what she was doing right now. An idea struck me: she doesn't have a cell phone. If she had a cell phone, we could talk pretty much whenever. I can fix that. After about 30 minutes, I had a courier arranged to bring her a brand new phone this evening. Smiling at my own brilliance, I had the confidence to call her before I tried to sleep. I dialed the inn's number, hoping she would be at the front desk. "Blue Moon Inn, this is Azalea. How can I help you today?" Her cheerful voice came over the phone receiver. "Hello, beautiful," I said. Liam? She asked, surprised. Yes, sweetheart. It's me. Hi. What are you doing? She asked, sounding pleased that it was me. Getting ready for some alpha business tonight. I was thinking about you, so I thought I would see how your day is going, I said. That's so sweet. I am doing wonderful. Yesterday was amazing, and I feel wonderful today. I've already caught up on all the chores here as well. I'm thinking about even making a caramel mousse cake for dinner service tonight, she said excitedly. I could almost hear her smile through the phone. Wow! It sounds like you're having a pleasant day. I wish I could taste that cake this evening. She giggled. Goddess, that sound was like music in my ears. Well, I could save you some or make you something special the next time we see each other. Next time? Yet. I was hoping to see you again soon, she said a little more shyly. That would be my absolute pleasure. When is your next day off, kitten? Let me see, today is Saturday. I think Tuesday. What if I can't wait that long to see you again, Azalea? I said seductively. I could hear a small gulp. Well, I chuckled. What if I came to have dinner at the inn tomorrow? Would there be any special treats from the sweet girl that works at the inn? I flirted with her. It was like we were in high school, except I never had to work this hard being the alpha in training. She giggled again. It could be arranged. Any requests? Well, I love chocolate and peanut butter, I told her. I can work with that. So, it's a date. Yes, she said, and again I could hear her smile through the phone. One more thing, you have a present coming this evening by courier. They are bringing it to the front desk of the inn. See you tomorrow, Azalea, I said as seductively as I could. Goodbye, Liam, she said sweetly. She hung up the phone. I smiled to myself. Knowing I would be seeing her soon made my heart race. Let's get this hunter and get to our mate. Gavin cheered in my head. If I catch him, you have to let me out to talk to mate. I appreciate your enthusiasm, truly, but no. What do you mean no? I can't guarantee you won't scare her off. So, you will just have to wait. But yes, let's get this hunter. Gavin huffed. He will be okay, it isn't like I am not struggling over here as well. Everything about that woman turns me on, and I am fighting every fiber of my being not to throw her on the bed and take her. Soon, I told him. Soon. She will accept us, and we will make her Luna. I promise. You better not FK this up for us, he whined. Yet. I better not do that, I thought. Chapter 19. Azalea, one more thing, you have a present coming this evening by courier. They are bringing it to the front desk of the inn. See you tomorrow, Azalea, he said in a sexy tone. The sound was traveling straight to my abdomen and making me feel very warm. Present? Why would he send me a present? Goodbye, Liam, I said with a small smile on my lips. I hung up, knowing that I would never get back to work if I didn't. A guest came in, so I got to work checking them in before making my way back to the kitchen. As I entered the kitchen, I could smell the marinade for the chicken Amy was planning to make for dinner. Are you grilling that tonight? I asked her. That's the plan. What are you up to now? She asked, placing trays of meat into the fridge. Think I am going to make a caramel mousse cake. Feeling pretty good right now. Would this be the result of certain men staying over in your bed last night? She questioned. I don't know what you mean, I said, trying to feign ignorance. I did not really want to talk about it yet, and I still hadn't had time to process all of yesterday's events. Oh, you know you are not getting off that easily. I've known you for what, like 2.5 years now? You have never once shown interest in any man that has come through this inn. Not every John who does nothing but stare at you when he is here. Then this handsome stranger from your childhood shows up, and you get all flirty and secretive. First of all, John does not stare at me. We are friends, that's all. Yet, no. That man is head over heels for you. When you aren't here, all he does is ask where you are and when you are coming back. He doesn't even show up on your days off. That is just not true, Ames. We have good food, and he likes the atmosphere here. He does not come here for me. Whatever, you are avoiding the real conversation here. Lee, you went on a date yesterday. The only date you have ever been on was taking ABI to baby reading time at the library when my husband forgot to come to pick her up. I blushed a little. Amy wasn't wrong. This would be the very first time I have ever shown any type of romantic interest in anyone. Okay. I'll tell you what happened, but I have one condition. I said to her. Anything, she said excitedly. You only get to ask 2 questions when I am finished. No more. I've barely had time to wrap my own head around what's happening. Oh, Lee, she said as she came over to hug me. Once she let me go, she continued, I am sorry. I was so excited about your date and a little worried about this guy just popping up. I never even thought about how crazy it must be for you right now. It's okay, Ames. Maybe telling you will help me sort out my feelings a bit, I said with a small smile. She nodded and let me begin. Well, he is from my childhood. We sort of grew up together but didn't really spend much time together. I was more of a loner, you could say. I left our hometown before graduation for my own reasons. So, when he saw me last week, he was just really surprised. I guess he never really noticed me before then, either. Well, we reconnected, and he has been really sweet. When he asked me to go out with him, some part of me said to give it a try. I don't really know how to explain it, Ames. He makes me feel safe and protected. My explanation was a little weak, but it was the best I could come up with. It was much harder to explain this to a human who knows nothing about wolf ways. But I couldn't tell her anything. Humans were forbidden from learning about wolves unless they were the mate of a wolf or they found out on their own. Ah! Lee, she cooed at me. I stuck my tongue out at her. Well, first we went to the coffee shop in town. After he put the waitress in her place, it was so amazing. We talked. He asked me questions about myself and actually listened. It was nice. We were there for a while, too. Then he told me we had another place to go. We walked out to the sports complex, and he had this little dinner picnic set up with a movie screen. He actually made the dinner too. We ate and watched a movie. He brought me a blanket, somehow knowing I would get cold. Afterward, he walked me home. We had a moment on my doorstep, and then he left. Okay, but that does not explain why he was still here in the morning, she said. I gave her a pointed look. She threw up her hands and said, I am just saying, that is not the end of the story. I sighed. So I freaked out a little bit. I thought I saw someone outside the window when I got into my apartment. So, I called him. I hoped he hadn't quite left yet and didn't know who else to call. He came back immediately. And I was still scared, so he stayed the night. That is all, though. I told her. Okay, 2 questions, go. Alright, question 1, what do you mean we had a moment on my doorstep? You would ask that, I said, scrunching my nose. Well, he kissed me, I finally finished. Her eyes grew wide. What? She almost screamed. He kissed you good night? Oh my gosh, Lee, that is so cute. Was that your first kiss? She asked excitedly. Is that your second question? I asked in response. I began pulling ingredients from the cupboard. Argh, girl. You are killing. Fine, yes, yes. That's my second question. Yes, it was, I told her. Lee. What? That is amazing. How was it? How long did it last? What did he taste like? Did it take your breath away? Whoa, whoa, whoa. You asked your questions. Calm down. I am a woman, I can kiss people. Sorry Lee, it's just I am married with a kid. There is no romance or excitement in my story anymore. But this is basically a fairy tale. Not to mention he is drop dead SXY. I don't get why he is still single. Maybe he just never found the right one, I said. It is not like I could tell her that I messed up his chance at a second chance mate by not rejecting him correctly. Just then, I heard the buzzer for the front desk. Okay, someone is out front. Can you get the mixer for me? I want to get started when I am back. And we are done talking about Liam, my date, and him spending the night. For now, she said with a smile. I rolled my eyes and left the kitchen. When I got to the front, a courier was waiting with a small box. Hi, can I help you? I said to him. Are you Azalea? He asked. Yes, I am. Is this for me? Yes, ma'am, it is. Just need a signature here, he said, handing me a clipboard. I signed the slip and handed it back. Oh, and it comes with this, he said, giving me a small envelope. Thank you, I said. I grabbed the small present box as he took his leave. I sat down in the chair behind the desk. I opened the envelope first. Inside was a card. I opened it and read. Azalea, I hope that you will accept my gift. I thought that this might help us communicate a bit more. This is yours, and it is completely paid for. My number is already programmed into it, so you can call or message me anytime. I hope that you will. Looking forward to seeing you again, Liam X. I looked at the little box. What did he send me? I began to open the wrapping paper. Inside was a plain white box. I opened the box to discover a cell phone inside. Did he send me a phone? Hey, do you think you could whip up some biscuits to go with the chicken tonight? I heard Amy calling as she walked into the reception area. What is that? She said, noticing me holding the box. It's a cell phone, I told her, still a little shocked. Who sent it to you? Let me see, she said. Liam sent it to me, I told her, handing her the box. Lee, this is like brand new. I think it just came out a couple of months ago. He sent you this? She said. Yeah. His note said he thought it would help us talk more. Wow, that's a really nice present, girl. You should probably call him and thank him, Amy said, handing me back the box. Yeah. I am going to do that right now. Then do you think you have time for some biscuits? She asked sweetly. Sure, I laughed. I can do that. We can save the cake for tomorrow. You're the best, she called as she left back to the kitchen. I pulled the phone from the box and turned it on. It started up and on the screen was a picture of us from last night. It was while we were watching the movie. I was sitting in his lap, and he had his arms wrapped around me. The movie screen was casting a light glow across us, and we were both smiling. It was a beautiful picture. How he took this, I do not know. I pressed the little phone button in the bottom corner, and the contact list pulled up. Like he said, his number was right there. I pressed his name, and it started to call him. I brought the phone to my face and waited for him to answer. Hello. I heard his low voice say. It sounded like he was asleep. Oh no, Liam, did I wake you? I asked worriedly. I looked over at the clock, realizing that it wasn't even dinner time yet. Wait, were you sleeping? It's okay, beautiful, he said. I heard him yawn before he continued. Just taking a nap. Have some things to take care of late tonight. But I am always available when you call. I just wanted to thank you. This is a lovely present. But I can let you go back to sleep. No, kitten. It's okay. I promise. I am glad you like it. I thought it might be easier to talk or text if you had your own phone, he said happily. Well, thank you, Liam. It's lovely. I will have to have Amy show me how to use it, though. I've never used a cell phone much before. I thought as much. You can call me by just pressing number 1 on the dial pad. I will always answer. And you can also send me text messages whenever. I downloaded a couple of reading apps as well. They will allow you to read books right on your phone. You can do that? I asked, a little amazed. Yep. You can use your phone however you like. Wow, thank you, Liam. Anything for you, Azalea, he said sweetly. I should probably go. I paused. Please be safe tonight, Liam, I begged. If the Alpha was going to handle business personally late at night, it had to be something serious. Don't worry, beautiful, nothing can hurt this big, bad Alpha, he said with a chuckle. I could imagine the CKY grin plastered across his face. If it weren't serious, you would be sending warriors. So, just be careful, I said sadly. I promise, Azalea. Everything will be fine. I will see you tomorrow for dinner, promise, he said in a more serious tone. Okay. See you then, I said before hanging up. I sighed. Now I would be worried about him all night. Sometimes the realities of being a werewolf were not pretty. I made my way to the kitchen to make Amy some biscuits. After dinner, I would have her show me how to use this thing all the way. Chapter 20. Liam, are you ready to go? Damian linked me. Yeah, give me just one more minute, I linked back. I wanted to tell Azalea that I would be okay one more time before we left. I didn't want her worrying about me. I opened up my phone and started a text message to her. Me. Hey beautiful, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I sleep well tonight. I waited a moment to see if she would start typing something back. When the telltale 3 dots didn't show up on the screen, I put my phone on my nightstand and got ready to leave. I wanted to get this over with, stop this hunter, and get to my girl. Before I left the room, my phone dinged, informing me I had a text message. A smile stretched across my face. I raced back over to my phone to read her message. Azalea, hi Liam. Please be safe. I will try, but I am worried about you. Good luck. I knew I didn't have long to message her, but I couldn't let her be worried. Her concern was stirring me up inside. Me don't worry, kitten. Just a few rogues. Nothing Damian and I can't take care of. Need to stretch my legs sometimes too. Will it make you feel better if I tell you when I am back? I waited a moment, and luckily her reply came quickly. Azalea, yes, it would. I smiled. The mate bond has to be strengthening. Me, it will be very late, but I promise I will. Sweet dreams, beautiful. I really cannot wait to see you for dinner tomorrow. With that, I set my phone down and left the room. I needed to get this hunter situation handled. I met Damian at the front door. You ready? He asked. Yeah. Is everyone else? Yeah. We should head out. Langston will be meeting us along the border of the territories. We'll start where the attack last night happened and work our way through the other spots. All the extra patrols are in place and on high alert as well, he explained. Good, I don't want any more wolves caught by this bastard. We made our way out to the front lawn, where the other members of the hunting party were waiting. As we approached, they all looked up. I nodded at them, and we made our way to the tree line. About 100 yards in, we paused to strip down, tying our clothes in bags on our legs so we would have clothes for the shift back. Taking the lead, we all shifted one by one. Once everyone was ready, I linked, "Let's move," and we set off toward the site of last night's hunter attack. Damian and I split off ahead of everyone else. Being in Alpha and Beta, we were much larger, faster, and stronger than the rest of the warriors. Damian was as large as me in wolf form, probably because of his immense human size. I swear I still expect him to shift into a bear instead of a wolf one day. We were evenly matched in strength while I remained slightly faster. My Gamma stayed back with the rest of the warriors as we made our way to meet Alpha Langston. Once we neared the territory border, we slowed down and began to see if we could hear or smell Langston or his warriors. We got a whiff coming from the south, so we turned in that direction. After another couple of minutes of running, we found them. Damian linked our Gamma to our location to bring the rest of our warriors. Langston and I both shifted to be able to speak with each other. Good evening, Langston, I greeted him. Liam, he said, nodding. Preliminary reports show no activity in the area so far, I inform him. He nodded. We should begin moving. We should also mix our groups so we can communicate with each other. Good idea, I said. I looked at Damian, and he nodded his head at me. He got to work linking our warriors, dividing them into two groups. I assumed he was also designating one to be responsible for shifting back and forth if necessary. We will be set in a moment. I will take my group back into our territory. You should head through yours, we both know the land better that way. Fine. Let's get moving, he said. I nodded my head and turned back to my warriors. Second group, follow Alpha Langston, I commanded before shifting back. Half of our warriors began moving towards the other pack's group while half of their warriors made their way to me. Once we were all in formation, Damian gave me the signal and I howled to the sky. The rest of the group followed my lead as we set off back into our pack's territory. After a few minutes of running, I linked Damian that we should split the group between us and approach from different sides. He agreed, linking the others to split. Langston's warriors caught on quickly, we didn't even need to waste time shifting. We set off in different directions, taking roundabout ways to the area where the other attacks were. After an hour of running our territory, I stopped my group for a break. I linked Damian while everyone got water and caught their breath. Find anything? I asked. Caught some faint traces that could be him. But we're bordering on the human side, and I can't imagine he would be this far out if he is after us. Although he could be using the human town as cover, he replied. I stopped for a minute. Dread overtook me. I did not want a hunter anywhere near Azalea. I never even thought about this bastard hiding in the human town. If he had any decent hunter senses, then he smelled me all over the place. Damian, I started. I know. But he couldn't know about her, Liam. Your uncle and I are the only ones who know anything. My parents know she is my mate, but they don't know that I have been in contact with her, I admitted. When the hell did you tell them? And how is she alive? No offense, man, but your father is not the most understanding. We'll talk about that later. Follow the traces and let me know. We will head towards you in a few minutes. Yes, Alpha, he replied and dropped our link. I told the group we would be moving in 5 minutes as my heart raced worrying about Azalea. I needed to find this bastard before he could connect Azalea to me. She wouldn't be safe. Even if I sent patrols into the human town or planted wolves at the inn, I couldn't guarantee her safety without making our secret known. Once everyone was shifted and ready to move again, we headed towards Damian's group. After about 10 minutes, Damian linked me again. Alpha, you need to see this now, he said. What? Just get here quickly. Come ahead of everyone else, he said, then went quiet. I turned and linked the senior warrior to my side. He nodded in understanding, and I took off as fast as I could. It only took me another 5 minutes before I broke into a small clearing where Damian stood. I approached him as we both shifted back to humans. He stepped aside so I could see what he was concerned about. I sent my group back to meet yours and told them to wait for us. Liam, he knows. I looked at what lay in front of us. There was a sign staked in the ground with a message for me. She's a pretty little thing. Too bad you can't protect her. I walked over to the sign, noticing something green flickering in the breeze on it. I grabbed the fabric, immediately realizing what it was. I retracted my wolf nails and worked the nail out of the sign, trying not to rip Azalea's sweater. This was the sweater she wore on our date. I turned to Damian. She wore this last night, I said coldly. Liam, whoever this is already has access to her. I know, and he's made it clear. He is after me and will use Azalea to get to me. What do? We need wolves in the human town tonight. But even then, how do we explain things to Langston? Let me handle that. Liam, you know you have to bring her here. We cannot protect that far away. I can't. I roared at him. She is absolutely petrified of anything pack-related. She panicked when I mentioned her coming to the pack only to see my uncle. We tortured her, Damian. Would you come back to a place where you were treated like a worthless traitor? I was getting worked up now. Gavin was in my head screaming that we needed to go to our mate now, and I didn't disagree with him. Liam, calm down. You are right. But it doesn't change anything. She isn't safe over there, and you cannot be there 24/7 with her. We both fell silent, absorbed in our own thoughts. Let me send a couple of wolves to check into the inn. I'll also send a patrol to run around the town as best they can. At least the woods are surrounding the inn so they can keep an eye on her. We need to meet with Langston, and you need to tell him something. I sighed. All right. Get everyone moving now. Give the ones going to the inn a pack car and tell them to get there as fast as they can. They also need to give a note to the old man who owns the inn. He should know what's happening. He is too old to protect her, but he can at least be another pair of eyes. Good idea, he said, nodding. I knew he was already linking Lily to help him get everything in motion. As soon as we have finished meeting with Langston, I am going to her. Gavin isn't going to sit by much longer until we know she is safe. Can you go to the search parties and send everyone back? Have one of Langston's warriors link him to meet in my office. Yeah, I can do that. Are you going back first then? Yeah, I am going to shower and get my things. I was supposed to meet her tomorrow for dinner. I will probably spend the whole day over there to get an eye on things. Understood. See you shortly, he said. He turned and darted into the woods, jumping to shift into his wolf and head toward our party. I shifted myself and ran as fast as I could back to the pack house. There was no trace of him when we got there. He knows about Azalea. He could be anyone. Gavin growled in my head. I know. I just need to take care of things here, and we can go to her. I shot back. What if he takes her while you're wasting time? Shut up. If he wanted to take her, he could have already. We talked to her just a few hours ago, and she was fine. And she's been alone and vulnerable for hours. He is 2 steps ahead of you. Attacking the pack members was just a distraction to get your attention. I am putting that together, thank you. We need to bring Mate here now. There is no other choice. We can't get him if she isn't safe. You know she won't come. We can't bring her here until she's ready. Gavin blocked me this time, leaving me alone to deal with this. I broke through the tree line and shifted mid-run. I crashed through the front door, not bothering to put any clothes on. I sped up to my room and immediately went for my phone. I knew it was late, but I needed to hear her voice and know she was okay. I dialed her new number and waited for her to answer. 2 rings later, she picked up. Liam, she answered quietly. I let out a sigh. Yes, sweetheart. It's me. Did you finish your pack business? Yes, I am back. Good. Oh, wait, hold on a moment. The phone is ringing. I could hear her answer the other phone. After a few minutes, she came back to the phone. I am glad you're back safe. But I have to go, Liam, she said. What's going on? It is the middle of the night, I said worriedly. Oh, a couple of people just called for a late check-in. I need to run up and get their room ready. They will be here in about 30 minutes, so I need to hurry, she said. Oh, thank goddess. It's just my wolves checking in. Okay. I won't keep you. Come straight back and get some rest, okay? Sure. I'll see you tomorrow, she said hopefully. As soon as I can tear myself away from the pack, beautiful, I told her. It was a bit of a lie but necessary at the moment. Get some sleep. Sweet dreams, she said before hanging up the phone. I sighed in slight relief. She is okay for now. But that hunter has access to her, and I needed to figure out who it was. I put my phone down and forced myself into the bathroom to shower. After showering, I grabbed some clean clothes and got dressed quickly. I grabbed a backpack from my closet and threw in some more clothes. I grabbed my phone and keys and put them in my pocket as I headed to my office. Damian and Langston wouldn't be long. I entered my office, and to no surprise, they were both already seated waiting for me. As I opened the door, Langston shot up and started shouting. I demand to know what you found and what is going on right now, boy, he shot at me. Please, sit down, and I will explain. No, start talking now. Why did you call off the search parties when there is no dead hunter? Because we no longer believe your territory is under target. And how can you know that? He attacked my patrols as well. Because this hunter is after my mate and me, I said definitively. He gave me a shocked look, thinking that I had no mate. If you sit down, I will explain. But this explanation does not leave this room. Am I clear? He hesitated a moment before nodding and taking a seat. Are you sure about this? Damian linked me as he gave me a pointed look. I can't hide it forever, and he should know. I will tell the rest of the pack in time, I linked back. I am sure you are surprised to hear that I have a mate. No one outside this room knows about this, I said with a serious tone. Langston nodded at me to continue. All that I can tell you for now is that the situation is complicated. For her own reasons, she has not accepted me yet and does not wish to come to my pack house. Right now, she resides in human territory. I have inadvertently led the hunter to her, and now he is using her to get to me. We believe her life is in danger. He nodded again. Then you need to bring her here for protection, young man. I do not need to tell you how important a Luna is to their alpha. I understand that. But it will not be that simple. For now, though, I need to take my leave and go to her, I am sure you can understand. I appreciate your discretion in this matter, I said to him, standing up to indicate my explanation was over. I understand. Good luck to you, and I will be eager to meet her. Please let us know if you need any assistance in this matter going forward. I would be happy to lend some of my warriors to protect your Luna, he said. I appreciate that. Thank you, I said, bowing my head respectfully to him. He bowed back and turned to leave. After he left, I looked at Damian. You are gonna have to come clean to Lily, you know, he said. She is gonna be mad if we don't tell her. Can you explain it to her? I need to go. Plus, you can calm her down about it all. Sure, Lily might not know everything about Azalea, so it is probably best I explain things. She might start throwing things at you again, he said, chuckling. He clearly remembered the last time I had made her angry. I gave him a tight smile. Go to her. I got things here. Patrols will be switched tomorrow, and I'll have new ones checking into the inn every 2 days. Thanks. What did you tell them? That we think the hunter is there, and they are to watch over the humans. Look for any that display strange behavior and make sure none are harmed. Good thinking, I said and made my way to the door. I stopped for a moment before exiting, my hand on the doorknob. Damian, thanks. Really, I said over my shoulder. Don't mention it. Go get our Luna, man, he said with a small smile. I left the office and went to the garage to get my car. I could get there faster running with Gavin, but I would need my SUV tomorrow. At least I knew Damian had my back in all this. If he and Lily accepted Azalea, maybe the pack wouldn't be hard to convince. Chapter 21. Azalea. I hung up the phone with Liam, thank goddess he was all right. I grabbed a long sweater and made my way to the inn. I put my new phone in my pocket just in case he called again. I wasn't sure I wanted to ask him what he was doing. I didn't want to be involved in pack matters. I may not be a rogue, but I wasn't exactly part of the pack. Growing up, everyone made it clear that I had no place there. Thinking about this made my stomach turn. Things were going really well with Liam, though. He was amazing, and he made me feel safe. I did not know I could feel this way, especially with him. He was so patient and thoughtful. But this would not last forever. He would eventually want me to come to the pack with him. I just didn't know if I could do that. I don't know that I could voluntarily go back to that place where I wasn't wanted. Tears welled up in my eyes as I started freshening up the rooms for our late arriving guests. I no longer wanted to imagine my solitary, single existence. I wanted to think about being with Liam, about being happy with Liam. I didn't know if I could be a Luna. I couldn't even shift. How was I supposed to take care of a whole pack? They would never accept or respect a Luna with traitor blood and no wolf. I dashed the tears from my eyes as I finished preparing the rooms. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. I needed to get myself downstairs, the guests would be arriving soon. I waited at the desk for the guests to arrive. I busied myself with looking over the check-ins and outs for tomorrow as well as the work order for the plumber coming in. The door opened, and I looked up to welcome the guests. All the blood drained from my face when I saw who entered the inn. Gwen was walking towards me with another guy. She had a prissy look on her face, meaning that she clearly did not want to be here. Why was she here? Was she going to recognize me? I immediately dropped my gaze down to the papers in front of me. "Welcome," I said quietly. "We called a bit ago." "Checking in for 2 nights, the guy said politely. "Yes, your rooms are all ready to go for you." "I just need a credit card," I said, still quiet and avoiding their looks. The guy handed me a credit card, and I proceeded to run it. I peeked up for a moment to look at Gwen. She had a questioning look on her face as her eyes bore into me. "Please, goddess, do not figure out who I am. I do not want any trouble." After the card cleared, I handed it back to them. "Here are your keys. You will go up the stairs, and it will be the 3rd and 4th doors on the left. Numbers are attached to the key. I will ask that you please keep noise to a minimum. It is very late, and we have other guests this evening. Complimentary breakfast service begins at 7 am, I said, handing over their keys. "Welcome to the Blue Moon Inn, and I hope you enjoy your stay." I peeked up with a small smile. Even if I didn't want her here, Gwen was still a customer, and this was my job. "Thank you, ma'am. We will be going straight to bed." "Good night," the guy said as he turned to go to his room. He paused, waiting for Gwen to move as well. She continued to stare at me. "Gwen, let's go," he whispered. She finally snapped out of it and nodded to him. She began scowling again as she grabbed her bag, and they headed for the stairs. I let out a breath. I was going to have to do everything in my power to be invisible for the next 2 days. Luckily, we had Lemon coming in tomorrow. She was a high schooler here who worked part-time just a couple of days a week. She could work the desk, and I could stay out of sight for a good portion of the day. As long as Gwen didn't figure out who I was, she had no reason to mess with me. Staying out of the way and away from her would help keep me off her mind, I hoped. She did not look all too happy to be here, so maybe she would stay in her room and not bother with the rest of the inn. I finished organizing the paperwork to make things easier in the morning before locking up and heading to the back. I wanted to crawl into my bed and get a little sleep before tomorrow. Part of me wished that Liam was waiting back in my apartment for me. As I walked across the dewy grass, my phone made a little dinging sound. I stopped and pulled it from my pocket. I turned it on to see I had a text message from Liam. Why didn't he go to sleep? Liam couldn't sleep until I knew you were safe in bed. Just needed to know you were okay. Reading his text message made my heart race a little. I was falling for him so fast it was kind of scary. "Me, you didn't have to wait up for me. That was very sweet. I am headed to bed now." I walked to my front door, and my phone dinged again before I could open it. A smile spread across my face. But before I could open his message, there was a rustling in the bushes about 30 feet away from my cottage near the forest line. Fear swept through me, and I quickly opened my door, slid into my apartment, and closed the door behind me. I swiftly locked the deadbolt and stepped back from the door. I needed to calm down. It was probably a little raccoon or something. Why was I so scared? I took a deep breath trying to calm my racing heart. My phone dinged again, and I opened it up to see both Liam's messages. Liam, you are always on my mind, Azalea. I wouldn't know what to do if something happened to you. If you ever needed me, I will always be there. No matter the time of day or night. You just have to ask, beautiful. I was really happy you called me last night when you needed someone. I want to be the person you rely on. I took a deep breath and calmed myself completely. I was just on edge after last night. Nothing ever happens around here. I read Liam's messages again. I knew he was opening a door for me to call him and have him come over, and it was very tempting. But I knew that would be moving too fast for us. Me, you really know how to make a girl swoon, Liam. I was happy I called you too. I am getting into bed now and we should both get some sleep. I will be excitedly waiting for dinner tomorrow. Sweet dreams. With that, I turned the phone off and climbed into bed. I nestled into my pillow that still had his scent clinging to it and let myself fall into a comfortable sleep. The next morning, I woke in a cheerful mood. I was excited to see Liam today, and I had everything ready to bake a delicious peanut butter and fudge cake this afternoon. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom to hop in the shower. After getting out, I wrapped my hair in a towel and went to my closet. I grabbed a pair of capris and a flowy top and got dressed. Afterward, I went to the bathroom and pulled my hair into a Dutch braid with a ribbon securing it at the end. Before leaving my apartment, I grabbed my phone and turned it on. To my pleasant surprise, I had a text message from Liam. Liam, good morning, beautiful. I should be at the inn by 4:30 this afternoon. Can't wait to see you. This just added to my excitement and good mood. I grabbed my MP3 player and headphones and headed up to the inn. When I got into the kitchen, Amy was bustling around getting the breakfast menu into serving trays. Good morning, I chirped, making my way to the coffee machine. Yeah, it will be if you help me get these trays out to the dining room, she said. Oh yeah, that is a no-go. As soon as Lemon gets here, I need to start cleaning rooms, I said. I did not want to explain the whole Gwen situation to Amy. I walked over to the fridge and pulled out a small yogurt. I opened it, tossed a few blueberries on top, then left the kitchen with my coffee. Why do you hate me? Amy called after me. I giggled as I made my way to the front desk. I sat down on the little stool to eat my yogurt. It was almost 7 a.m. so Lemon should be getting here anytime. After I finished my breakfast, I made a to-do list for Lemon and myself while sipping my coffee. Just as I was finishing up, the front door opened, and I looked up to see Lemon rushing in, her silky black hair flying everywhere. Sorry, Lee, she said, rushing behind the desk. No worries. I've just been having some coffee and getting us organized today. Do you think you can handle a clean through of the lobby and sitting areas while I tackle the rooms and laundry? We have a plumber coming later as well, but he won't need anything from us other than the room key. Yeah, totally. How many check-ins do we have today? She asked, taking her coat off. We have 4 checkouts and 3 check-ins. 2 or 3 of these should be leaving right after breakfast, so be ready, I told her. Easy day, she said with a smile. Hey, Do you think I can grab some breakfast before you leave me? I was out late last night with my girlfriends and slept too long this morning, she asked. Sure. How about I go ask Amy to bring you a plate out? I need more coffee anyway, I suggested. You are so awesome, Lee. Thanks, she said cheerily. I grabbed her jacket to throw in the office and made my way to the kitchen. Hey Amy, do me a favor and make Lemon a plate of food. She was partying again last night and didn't have breakfast on her way here, I said as I entered the kitchen. I immediately stopped seeing a raging Amy aggressively cooking something at the stove. Whoa, what's going on? I asked her. Some skank is complaining about the food. The nerve, really? It's a complimentary breakfast buffet. Not a 5-star restaurant. Argh, she fumed. Just breathe. I am sure she didn't sleep well and woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It probably has nothing to do with your cooking, I tried to assure her. She could get very emotional when people complained about her cooking. Yes, I will bring sweet, irresponsible Lemon a plate to the front desk when I am done remaking an entire meal for one lousy whiner, she thundered. I knew that was my cue to let her be. Sometimes, she just needed to work it out and could not be talked down. I put my coffee cup in the sink, deciding it wasn't too necessary, and left the kitchen to go to the laundry room. I couldn't start cleaning rooms until guests checked out anyway. I turned on my MP3 player and busied myself with washing and folding linens. I was determined that today would be a good day, ending with a fantastic dinner with Liam, even if Gwen were here at the inn. Chapter 22. I was able to fly under the radar all day and avoid Gwen. I got my whole to-do list taken care of, baked a decadent peanut butter cake with fudge icing, and even caught up on a little bit of paperwork the old man was behind on. It was just about 4 p.m., and I was back in my apartment freshening up before dinner. I planned on going up to the front desk, so I could meet Liam when he arrived. I had butterflies filling my nervous stomach. I heard a knock at my door, and I opened it to see John standing there with a huge grin on his face. Well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes? He chirped. Hi, John. How are you? I greeted him. Much better now, Miss Lee. I was wondering if you could possibly join me for dinner this evening. I have missed seeing your face these past few days and would love to catch up. Oh John, I am so sorry. I have a guest coming for dinner. It's not that large fellow, is it? He said in a serious tone. He stood a little taller as he said it, almost as if Liam angered him in some way. If you mean the man you have met a few times now, yes, actually. I said nervously. Miss Lee, I got to be honest with you. I don't like that guy much. I am pretty good at judging people, and I don't like what I see with him. Well, John, that is unfortunate. Liam is a wonderful man, and I do not think it's fair for you to judge him without knowing him, to be honest. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to finish getting ready and head back up to the inn, I said to him, a little angry now. No, his first impression of Liam that day in the dining room wasn't great, but he had no right to judge him. I am sorry, Miss Lee. Forgive me. I will see you later, okay, he said. Sure, I said shortly, closing my front door in his face. I grabbed my things and checked the front window to make sure John was gone. After seeing the coast was clear, I made my way back over to the inn. Liam. It had been a long night and day, but luckily, Azalea stayed in the inn all day. Damian had come and relieved me to watch over her for a few hours so I could sleep. I was now headed over to the inn in my SUV. It was still a tad early, but I hoped she wouldn't be upset. Gavin was restless, and I needed to see her. I parked in the lot, noticing one of the pack cars parked there. Good, there were still wolves at the inn. Hopefully, they would be discreet this evening if they came down for dinner. I made my way inside and approached the front desk. The same black-haired girl that flirted with Damian and me when we stopped for lunch was behind the desk. "Hello, welcome to the Blue Moon Inn. Are we checking in or here for dinner?" she asked in a sweet voice. "I am actually meeting someone for dinner. I can just wait up here for her," I told her. "I can seat you in the dining room if you wish," she said, batting her eyelashes at me. I fought the urge to roll my eyes at her. "That is all right. I am a bit early. I am sure she will be here any minute," I said, hoping she would drop it. "All right, then. My name is Lemon. If you need something, don't hesitate to ask," she said with a wink. I gave her a tight smile and walked towards the sitting area near the dining room. Hopefully, Azalea would pop in here soon, so this lemon girl would stop ogling me. "Liam!" I heard a voice come from behind. My eyes grew wide as I turned around and saw Gwen descending the staircase. What the hell? Why in the world would Damian send Gwen here? He knows how she is about me. "Gwen, what are you doing here?" I hissed, coming closer to her. Lily needed wolves to come watch over the humans, so she sent me. "Brandon is here too." "What are you doing here?" she asked, running her hand up my chest. I grabbed her hand, stopping her advance. "Stop now, Gwen. I am not here for that." "I am, here on business," I lied. "Liam, I know when you're lying. We grew up together." "Why are you really here?" she said, yanking her hand from my grip. I sighed, running my hand through my hair. "Goddess, why did Lily have to send Gwen last night? She really couldn't find anyone else?" Before I could answer, I heard a small ahem, and looked over to see Azalea standing by the dining room. I breathed as I looked from Gwen to Azalea. She looked scared, standing there staring at Gwen and me. Her eyes almost looked hurt at the same time. I had planned on telling her about everything on our next date. I didn't think she would recognize anyone sent out here, and the patrols were told to be extremely discreet. "Liam, is that?" Gwen started, but I cut her off with a growl. "Go now. Do not speak to either of us and keep your questions to yourself." I linked her. She crossed her arms and scowled at me before turning around and walking back up the stairs. I looked over to Azalea, who was shaking slightly. I walked over to her and reached out my hand to hold her face. "Azalea, I can explain," I said quietly. She swallowed and stayed silent. "Look, some things have gotten complicated with the pack. I was going to explain everything to you, just not tonight. I had no idea she was going to be here. I would have never sent Gwen of all people here," I said, looking into her large green eyes. She looked down and shook her head like she was composing herself. She took a deep breath before quietly saying, "It's okay. It isn't my business. She is a guest here." I put my finger under her chin and lifted her gaze to mine. I could see tears brimming in her eyes. "Azalea, she won't do anything to you, I promise. I won't let her near you. I won't let her tell anyone who or where you are. I promise, baby. I am so sorry." She nodded her head, then stepped forward, closing the distance between us. She buried her head in my chest and wrapped her arms around my stomach. I immediately wrapped her in my arms and held her close. "How about we go somewhere else for dinner? We don't have to stay here with Gwen," I suggested quietly to her. She pulled away and said, are you sure that's okay? Of course. If it scares you to be here with her, then we won't stay. Thank you, she said with a small smile on her lips. Do you need anything before we go? I asked. Her eyes grew wide. Wait right here, she exclaimed as she darted back to the kitchen. I stood there waiting for her return. I would need to link Damian later about Gwen. I looked over to the front desk and caught Lemon giving me a sour look. I chuckled to myself. I guess she didn't think Azalea would be her competition. Azalea re-emerged a few minutes later. Ready to go? I asked. She nodded her head with a big smile. I held my hand out, and she grabbed it with her small, soft one immediately. I momentarily basked in the pleasurable sparks that erupted from her touch. I turned to lead us out, ignoring the death glare Gwen was giving me from the staircase. Where are you going with her? Gwen linked me. I blocked her out and focused my attention on Azalea. So, is there anywhere in town you would like to go? I asked her. There were not too many options as this was a very small town. There is an Italian restaurant a couple of blocks that way, she said, pointing. Italian sounds great, I said with a smile. She seemed to relax more the further we got away from the inn. We made our way to the little Italian restaurant. We got ourselves a table and ordered dinner. We fell into easy and comfortable conversation after the waitress left that continued throughout the meal. She talked animatedly about the inn and books she had read recently. I was completely enraptured with everything she said. We were in our own world, and everything was perfect until we had finished dinner. The waitress brought a couple of coffees as we showed no signs of leaving yet. I planned on leaving a large tip for taking up a table all evening. Just then, John Henry walked up to the table. Well, fancy this, Miss Lee. We meet again, he said to Azalea, doing his best not to acknowledge me. I growled low enough that he would not be able to hear with human hearing. As I did, I saw his ear twitch ever so slightly. Hi, John, she said coolly. Oh, I don't mean to interrupt or anything. Just grabbing some takeout tonight, he said. Turning to me, he continued, I don't believe we have had the formal pleasure yet. My name is John Henry. I am a friend of Miss Lee's here in town. He held his hand out to me. I looked at his hand. If he was a friend of hers, I should play it nice. But something was off about him. Grabbing his hand, I said, nice to formally meet you. Liam Blackford. Pleasure is all mine. How do you know our sweet little flower? He asked. She gave him a curious look before looking at me. We were childhood acquaintances. Now, if you do not mind, we were just about to pay our bill and leave, I said, standing up. I pulled my wallet out and dropped money on the table, more than enough to cover our meal and a large tip. I held out my hand to Azalea, saying, shall we, beautiful? She smiled and grabbed my hand. As she stood, I wrapped my arm around her waist. I nodded at John and began to steer her toward the door. As we left the restaurant, Gavin was in my head yelling at me to go back and rip him to shreds for laying eyes on our mate. Azalea, I am so sorry about that, I said quietly to Liam, embarrassed about John interrupting us. It's not your fault. I just don't like the way he looks at you, he told me. I don't really blame him. John has been acting odd ever since Liam showed up. He removed his hand from my waist and entangled his fingers in mine. I happily held his hand and moved closer to his body. Now that the sun had set, it was getting a little colder out. I gripped his arm with my other hand as we walked. He looked down at me with a sweet smile on his lips. So, what now? He asked. Well, I set aside some dessert for us back at the inn. All the guests should be clear of the dining room now, I said, hoping he would want to come back with me. I really wanted him to try some of the cake. His face broke out into a giant grin. You made dessert especially for me? He asked excitedly. I nodded my head, blushing a bit. Do I get to know what it is? He asked, still excited. I thought for a moment and shook my head. No, I think it should be a surprise, I said with a smile. Let's get a move on then, he said happily. He picked up our pace so that I was almost jogging, my short legs struggling to keep up with him. On the other hand, he looked like he was just casually strolling down the street. After a few minutes, I had to slow him down. Liam, can we stop running? I asked, out of breath. Oh goddess, I am sorry, Azalea. I forgot about you being smaller than me, he said, slowing down his pace. Thank you, I said, trying to catch my breath. He just chuckled at me. Before I knew it, we were back at the inn. When we got to the front door, he opened it for me and bowed like a gentleman. I giggled and led the way inside. As we walked through the front, we heard a voice speak up. Liam, why are you flaunting around with a traitor? The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.